Hello, all my crafty people out there. It is time for our weekly project, and this one is going to be short and sweet and hopefully very helpful. I am currently wearing what I wore today for work. Little A-frame dress, super cute, super comfy, except for one flaw. I got no pockets. I want pockets. I like pockets. So I'm going to show y'all how to put pockets in something that you thrift or buy that doesn't have them. If that's a possibility, I think we can do it. So if you want to follow along, see how it goes, by all means, like, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I'll catch y'all at the table. Okay, everybody, this is my dress, as you saw me wearing, and it's not terribly long. It's just a little A-frame dress, and it's super comfy, but I like to have some pockets. So there is a couple ways that you can generate a pocket pattern. One, you can use any pattern that's got pockets. This happens to be 2101. It's an old pattern of mine, and it has a pocket. Now this is a pants pocket, which means it relies on a waistline to connect it to the garment. But if you wanted to, you could just simply curve it like that and make that a pocket. That's a rather large pocket, so unusual for us. But you could use something like this. Or if you didn't have another pattern, if you had another dress or something that you like the pockets on, you could kill two birds with one stone with this process. In other words, if you use that pocket, you got to figure out where you want it on your dress. So you got to try it on, kind of gauge where you want it. But if you've got a dress that's already got a pocket and it's in the spot that you want it to be, then use it. This is an old dress of mine that I love to wear around, and I've turned it inside out. So what I'm going to do, I'll pull this down for me. I'm going to just line up my shoulder seams. It doesn't have to be fancy. You're just trying to get where you need to go as far as the same height on your shoulder. So this is a rough estimate here. I've put the dress on here, and since I've turned it inside out, you can see my pockets. Now, I can trace these pockets on a piece of paper and use them as my pattern. But then I also have the opportunity to get a gauge of where I want to put those pockets, which is right here. So I'm going to mark one side of my dress and fold it over, make sure it's lined up, and that way I'll be sure that the markings are even on each side. So I want my pockets to be right here, or to start right there, okay? I'm going to pick this dress up, and I'm going to use my hemline, okay? Use my hemline. I'm going to carefully put these together, like this. And then I know, I do the old rub and mark thing, exactly where my other pocket needs to be. So I have both of my pockets marked. And you can darken it up here, obviously. But those should be perfectly even because we measured it from the hemline, folded them together, and rubbed the mark into the other side. So that's our first issue. Let's go ahead and draw us a pocket to put in those spots. I'm going to leave this over here to the side. I don't want to lose my marks. So I'm just going to go fold it up. And now we're going to trace this. So let me get the iron. I want to press this nice and flat so we get a good trace on it. When you're ironing, just make sure you pull that seam out. You want to make this the proper size. So here I am just trying to make sure I get that seam out or that buckle, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, I've flattened out my pocket and I've put it down on a piece of tracing paper. I have plenty of room on the bottom of the tracing paper. I'm not, to the edge here. Now, I've thought about several different ways to do this. I think I'm just going to draw it out. You could just weight it and cut it, but I think I'm going to draw it out in case I want to change anything. So I'm just going to kind of trace around here. Again, we're not looking for perfection. Remember, this is going on the inside. We're just kind of looking for a shape. Okay. So there's our basic shape. And we want to come off at least a couple of a half inch here to make sure that we've got enough to connect it to the dress. Now, it might be kind of hard for y'all to see, but I have drawn our pocket shape just by tracing the other one. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to cut this out, and then we're going to find us some black fabric to pin it down to and make our pockets out of. Okay, quick question. I'm using my good scissors to cut this out, but this is flimsy tracing paper, just like pattern paper. That's okay, right? I don't really have to get other scissors for just that, right? Okay, I have a piece of, I believe this is just a poly cotton blend broadcloth that I had for another project. Like, we ain't got all those kind of projects hanging out. And I went ahead and pressed it, and I always heard, or at least I heard in the Martha Pullen School, that if you press it with steam and also wet it down, you do the shrinking without having to wash it. But this has probably been washed. Who knows? It's been in here for a bit, or as they say nowadays, for a minute. So got all of that folded. So essentially I've got 4 pieces because I've got it folded in half and in half again. And we're going to put our pocket down. I tried to put it this way, but it's just not quite wide enough. I don't think this is going to be wide enough on this side. So, always trying to save a piece of fabric as much as you can. And I'm going to pin this down and cut this out. And then we're going to open up the sides of our dress where we need to put these pockets. All right, not much to say about this. Just cutting it out, going around. And I kind of got smart here at the end and made sure my end was straight and cut it with the ruler and the rotary cutter. Okay, before we start taking the dress apart, we want to make sure the pocket's not too big. In other words, this is kind of a short dress. I don't want it to hang below the hemline. That would not be good. It's kind of hard to see, but hopefully this has got a reflection to it that's easier. So we should be spot on. We should be within our hemline, shouldn't be a problem. And this is a poly cotton. It's not going to shrink or anything like that. So we're in good shape for the size of the pocket. Now, it is hemmed. And I could take it apart all the way. I'm thinking that might be the best way, just to make sure we don't have any trouble getting it in there. So I'm going to take the hem out, and we're going to open the side all the way to that top pin and see how it goes. Okay, this was tedious. These were put together, the side seams were put together like jeans or pants. In other words, they were sewn together, and then there was a serge line over them. So essentially I had to rip each thing twice, once for the initial seam and secondly for the serge line. But, we soldier on. All good. Here are my 2 pieces of pocket, and I'm going to put both of them. This is the same way you would do it if you were doing new construction. I want them front and center right here, right sides together. So I'm going to line them up, right sides together, as close to that mark as I can get. And we're going to sew them down here and here on each side. And then we'll turn them out to sew around them and add them essentially to the side seam. So let me pin these down real quick. Take my first pin out of here. Oh, I'm making a mess. Take my first pin out of here. And just attach them right there. And I'll attach all 4 of them like this. Again, right sides together. This particular black fabric that I'm using for the pocket doesn't really have a right or wrong side. It's a burlap of sorts. Not burlap. Oh, Lord, I probably said that earlier, too. Batiste? Broadcloth. There, that's where I'm going. Ugh, yeah. The struggle is real. And then I'm going to go to the other side. Make sure these are facing the right way. Don't want them to be facing the wrong way. So they face down like this. And I'm going to pin these all four, like I said, just like this. All right, fast forward through the process of sewing the pockets down to the dress. Again, this is right sides together, just like you would in new construction. You could open it up a little more at the top. Maybe I wish I'd done that just so it was a little easier to fit in, but it wasn't really that much trouble. Okay, I have my dress turned inside out because we have sewn the pockets to the front of the dress. And now we're going to essentially make these pockets part of the seam line, right? So we're going to be lining up our hemlines, which will have to go all the way down. You may have to open that more. That's just kind of on the as you go kind of thing. And we're going to make sure our pockets line up like they should. Just pull them a little, make sure everything's lined up. I'm going to throw a couple of pins in here. Again, the dress is right side in, wrong side out, however you want to say that. Your glass half full or half empty, however you like it. And I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and for both of these pockets, I'm going to start right here at the point where we put the pocket in. I'm going to go all the way around the pocket and down the hemline. That's going to create that pocket seam, that it's going to be part of the seam. Okay, starting at the top. You want to do a little back stitching, of course, and, just take and follow your line. It really isn't too much of a challenge. But like I said, when you get to those points, you want to pull that seam forward and make sure you do a little back stitch there. And then go down all the way to your hemline. And yes, I did have to open it up a little more just to make it easy to get down there. Okay, everybody. We now have pockets. I'm excited. I've been wanting to do this for a while. There's quite a few dresses that I'd like to add pockets to. So this kind of was the trial, and it worked out great. The only thing, you just got to make sure that they're not too long for your dress. And you also might want to check, if you're the type of person that puts keys or something heavy in your pockets, you might want to make them shorter as well because, the weight will push them down. But these are perfect for what I want and doesn't really change anything. I think that they seam in pretty well. So the only other thing, if you want to, you could put a stitch over the top just to keep them in place, but I'm not going to have that problem with these since it's such a flowy dress. But if you enjoyed this, if you think it might be useful for you, by all means comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch y'all on the flip side of our next project.